And now it's time for the wacky world of Wackademia, which we call Wackademia, as I said. James, what have you got for us? Who's been wackiest this week?
Oh, well, we've got a university in Britain that has decided that they are going to stop teaching Chaucer, which I think is kind of a surprising story because I didn't think anybody taught a dead white male like Chaucer anymore, but there we are. And it's part of course, an effort to push for more diversity and, decolonize the curriculum because, of course, everything, that came before in England, you got to get rid of that and you've got to take in all of this other stuff for multiculturalism and diversity. But at the end, you wind up losing all of the fundamentals of the Western canon. And I would challenge anybody who has read Chaucer to tell me that actually that's not A, a brilliant work of literature, but B, something that doesn't wind up taking in vast realms of human experience that we can still learn from today.
Rita, Chaucer, of course, Beowulf, Canterbury Tales, some of the great original works in English literature. But apparently the university is saying, oh, no, we're not cancelling him because he's too white. How many, people of colour were writing back in 14th century Britain, I wonder, Rita?
Well, it doesn't matter because it's all about the optics. It's all about ticking boxes, and the diversity is our strength mentality has taken hold in academia, and that's what they value. It's not the quality of the work. It's the gender, colour and religion of the author. That is the key attribute. It's backward. It's backward thinking.
Now, I was unsurprised but equally horrified, James, to see that in America, the usual gang have got together, a group of publishers and authors, and they're putting together a petition and demanding that no Donald Trump official is ever allowed to publish a book. What do you make of this, mate?
Well, this is part of a much more sinister campaign that we're starting to see, but we've seen it in the publishing industry in other areas of it before, but now it's really coming to the fore. This idea that if your politics aren't woke and if your politics don't go with the narrative, then you will not get a platform. So they say, oh, well, they're private companies, they can make their own decisions. Absolutely, that's correct. But you also have to say that what is happening right now is essentially, it feels like what's developing in the United States is a Chinese-style social credit system, except being instead of run by, the central government in Beijing, it's now being run outsourced, if you will, to the private sector to make these decisions. Congressman Josh Hawley, who many people thought could have been a potential goer in 2024, well, he's had his book deal rescinded as well because of his support for Trump, and as well, a hotel has said he can't hold fundraisers there. We're seeing people say that they've had job offers rescinded because they have supported Trump in the past on social media. It's pretty sinister stuff, and the end result, we saw that terrible stuff in Washington the other week, but you get 75 million people who all feel like they're unpersoned, unemployable, and everything else because their politics are wrong. Well, I tell you what, that's going to cause a lot more problems for America.
Rita,
well, you want to talk about radicalising people. This is how you radicalise people. If you actually are serious about trying to have any sort of unity and healing, it seems to the Democrats, Rowan, unity means submission. You submit, you absolutely obediently follow whatever they say, and then you can have some peace and unity. Otherwise, they're going to cancel you, they're going to terrorise you, they're going to make sure that your career opportunities are thwarted. And you know what? This isn't market forces at work. As we saw with the purge from social media, it's not the market dictating this. This is ideologically driven decisions that have got nothing to do with the market. They're very much a few powerful people determining what's acceptable and what's not, and trying to police thought. It's dangerous.
It's incredibly dangerous, and this wiping out of history, the idea that no Trump officials ever get to write a book is really serious, dangerous stuff. Almost as mad and almost as crazy. We're kind of drifted out of Wackademia, but that's all right. There's so much wacky stuff in Biden that I think he fits into our wacky category. James, Biden has also, or someone on Team Biden has also managed to somehow decide that racism, systemic racism, is the cause of climate change, or is it the other way around? I'm not sure.
Oh, who can tell anymore? But it's all, apparently everything now is a case of white supremacy. So white supremacy apparently causes climate change. This is according to Cecilia Martinez, who is the Senior Director for Environmental Justice, who has now said that unless intentionally interrupted, systemic racism will continue to be a major obstacle to creating a healthy planet. So I'm not quite sure how you draw that bow, but it is part of this whole sort of thing where you get this kind of unified field theory of all these lefty theories all put into one box.
Extraordinary. Rita, sorry, Rita, you go.
I was just going to say, one thing we haven't talked much about today is one of the executive orders Biden has already signed, which is going to have all sorts of impact for women and girls in sport. So he has basically said that any educational institution that receives federal funding must allow biologically male athletes who identify as women to compete in the women's categories. Now, that is going to be devastating for those categories because there are biological differences. That's just reality.
It's the destruction
and if you look
of
at
sport.
the fastest, if you look at the fastest times, high school boys would beat female Olympians. I mean, it's just not fair. That's why we have the two categories. And I think the ramifications of this decision are really going to be quite significant, particularly for young girls who get scholarships, you know, from girls from working class backgrounds who don't have really much hopes of going to college. If it's not for a sporting scholarship, that's going to be impacted as well. I think this is just a really poor decision that is against.
It's disgusting. But Rita, you've also pointed out that another reversal, because Biden's gone in and just reversed everything Trump's done. Insulin. Tell us, Rita, about the insulin decision.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things he's reversed. He's reversed a lot of Trump's executive orders, and one of them is to reduce the pricing of insulin. So that, again, you're not seeing much media on this. You're not seeing much criticism on this. But this is, again, going to impact many people, type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And if Trump came in and on day 1 or 2 he was raising the price of essential medicines, I can tell you you'd be hearing a lot more about it than what we're hearing about this.
Well, James, James, something else that really disturbed me was Joe Biden, you know, the great work that Donald Trump did with the Middle East, 5 peace treaties, James, you referred to earlier, and moving the embassy to Jerusalem, etc., etc. Well, the ambassador to Israel, Biden's team have now renamed that ambassador the ambassador to Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. So already Biden is retreating from Trump's kind of let's get on with peace in the Middle East without obsessing endlessly about the Palestinians. He's flipped this and gone straight back into let's get crazy about the Palestinians again, James.
And you know, it's not just this, Rowan. There's absolutely an indicator of where their foreign policy is going. And we see this with the deal to revive the deal to essentially allow Iran to arm itself with nuclear weapons, which is going to be hugely destabilizing for the Middle East. We see this with so many other things that Joe Biden has done in his first 24 hours. You know, he got up and he spoke at the inauguration about unity. But as Rita quite properly points out, it is unity for them, but not for anybody else. You're either with them or against them. And you now see not just that, but you also see the Keystone Pipeline decision. So now this pipeline that was supposed to get oil out of Canada, imported to the rest of the world, well, that's not happening. Over 10,000 jobs are going to go with that. But more than that, Western economic energy independence is going to go. So that is also empowering America's enemies, such as, you know, Russia and other countries that are going to do very well off higher petroleum prices that this is going to cause. And we see this with a whole slew of other executive orders, including on immigration. And now we're already seeing that Texas is filing suit against the Biden administration's attempt to halt deportations. Because they say quite rightly that what they are now doing is opening the door. They're going to open the floodgates for illegal undocumented migrants. And when you add that to the plans to give citizenship to over 11 million people who are not in the United States legally, well, you can see exactly, A, how divisive that is, but also cynical. Because the end game, Rowan and Rita, for all of this is to cement a permanent Democratic majority in the United States that they can never get rid of, that the Republicans will never be able to outstrip, especially if they get their way and get rid of that electoral college.
Exactly. Now, very quickly, Rita, just got a few seconds before we go to a break, but Facebook.
Well, yes, they've been banning Conservatives left, right and centre, and now it's come back and bit the left on the butt as well. One of the UK's left political groups, the Socialist Party, Workers' Party, has had its Facebook page removed. And this is a mob that, rail against hate speech. They've were just recently having a go at Nigel Farage for his hate speech, and now they've seen that there's actually consequences to this censorship. It can come back and get you on the butt as well.